You are the biggest scammer I've ever come across and one of the worst. You want to play me off for a freaking fool?
I get you.
Can I talk?
I get you.
Can I talk?
Problem is you. The problem is the human freaking race. All you try to do is hurt others, and you want to call that love? Bull. Let me tell you this. When Earth first started, and God, yeah, roll your eyes. Good. Like I said, when Earth first started, it wasn't a program. Welcome to your program, okay?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Hello, friends, and welcome to the channel. So today, we are going to be talking about one of the couples from the TV show 90 Day Fiancé Before the 90 Days, CHIDI and RAYNE. CHIDI and RAYNE are like one of the weirdest couples of this season, with some even comparing them to Angela and Michael. Personally, I don't believe we can compare them because they have different situations. Even though RAYNE has shown a few red flags, but hey, let me stop talking, and let's get to it.
Let's go.
So in the first episode, we are introduced to RAYNE, who is 37 years old and lives in Española, New Mexico. She is a lover of animals and has a farm of her own. RAYNE has 2 children, an 8-year-old son named Devin and a 16-year-old daughter named Lexi. RAYNE would describe herself as a loner and a quirky weirdo. She has never been married, and the relationships she has had with the fathers of her 2 children were unfortunately very toxic. After those bad relationships ended, RAYNE totally gave up on dating. RAYNE says she had never experienced romance at all. Well, that was until 5 years ago when she met CHIDI. RAYNE and CHIDI met each other online when RAYNE was trying to find more friends. CHIDI was on the app as a friend suggestion. RAYNE thought he looked cute, so she sent a friend request, and that was when everything started. For the first time, she is going to leave her home to go to Nigeria to meet CHIDI. Meanwhile, later we are taken to Lagos, Nigeria, where we are introduced to CHIDI. CHIDI is 33 years old, he lives in Lagos, Nigeria, and something which came as a surprise to me is the fact that he is blind. But CHIDI wasn't born blind. His blindness is a result of something that happened when he was 17 years old. He was with a friend, and they decided to climb an apple tree. His friend climbed the tree while CHIDI stood on the ground, waiting for the apples to fall. Unfortunately, an apple fell and hit him on his right eye. As a result of the impairment on the right eye, one evening he fell and hit his left eye on a wooden desk. He was rushed to the hospital, but unfortunately, there was nothing they could do. Eventually, he became completely blind in both eyes. CHIDI is a Christian, and for him, his faith is one of the things that helped him cope with his blindness. So Christianity is a pretty big deal for him. And later, we are going to see how his faith had a little, or should I say, a pretty big impact on his relationship with RAYNE. In the next part of the story, we see RAYNE meeting up with her mother and her friends. Clearly, they are worried about RAYNE leaving to go alone to a country she has never been to before. So they keep talking until RAYNE tells them that when CHIDI told her he was blind, she realized she wanted him forever. Something I think is a pretty weird thing to say. So what, are you more attracted to his blindness? Not only did she say that, but she also said that the fact that he is blind is a huge turn-on for her. Like, girl, are you okay? That was just a very strange thing to say. So the next thing they talk about is CHIDI's religion and what she thinks about it. She says, well, she's going to wake him up and show him the truth. Because apparently, she has the truth. In the next episode, we see RAYNE packing her stuff to leave to Nigeria. And again, she still keeps talking about how CHIDI being blind is a turn-on for her and how she can't wait to be intimate with him because of that. Which, at this point, I feel like his blindness is starting to look like some sort of fantasy to her. Like, don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with loving your partner who is blind, but when you start obsessing over their blindness, it becomes really weird. RAYNE, do you really think if CHIDI could change his blindness, he wouldn't? Please stop being so weird. So later, she bids children goodbye and leaves for Nigeria. The next time we see RAYNE is when she is in the airport looking for CHIDI after her plane landed in Nigeria. And in the airport, CHIDI is with his uncle, who accompanied him to meet RAYNE. Obviously, there's a lot of excitement in the air from both sides. Once Rayne lands in Nigeria, she realizes how different and busy the airport is, and how hot the environment is. After some time, Rayne finally sees Chidi, but Chidi doesn't immediately realize that she's in front of him, so his uncle tells him that Rayne is standing next to him. He immediately proceeds to hug her with a big smile on his face, knowing that she's finally in Nigeria with him. So with a lot of excitement and happiness, they all head home. In the car, while heading home, Rayne begins cracking jokes, and Chidi can't help but smile as he realizes that there's never a dull moment with Rayne. Finally, they reach home. Okay, so something I think I forgot to say is that Chidi lives with his elder sister and her husband, who Chidi considers an uncle. Yes, the same uncle who took him to the airport is his elder sister's husband. So they reach home, and on the stairs while going to the house, Rayne starts talking about how she has always had a strange feeling about meeting or being around her man's sister. I honestly don't get why, but she proceeds by explaining that she has nothing against Chidi's sister. But ever since she was young, she has always had a feeling about some sort of drama with her man's sister. Which I think sounds really dumb. Like, why would you have feelings about having drama with your man's family? It doesn't make sense. It just seems like she's fantasizing about it. So later, they meet Chidi's elder sister, Victoria, who excitedly welcomes them, especially Rayne, and promises to do everything to make Rayne feel comfortable because she sees how happy Rayne makes Chidi. Well, that won't be the case for long, Victoria. Later, Chidi proceeds to show Rayne around the house. He then takes her to her room. At this moment, Rayne doesn't realize that she and Chidi are going to be sleeping in different rooms. Chidi, afraid of Rayne's reaction, doesn't immediately tell her, but decides to break the news in the evening before going to bed. Why doesn't he want to sleep in the same room as Rayne? Remember when I mentioned that Chidi is a Christian? Well, his faith does not allow him to have premarital relations, let's put it that way, due to YouTube guidelines, with a woman who isn't his wife. Later in the evening, Chidi goes to Rayne's room, and they share a few kisses and hugs. He then proceeds to explain to Rayne why he can't stay in the same room as her. However, he doesn't actually tell her the real reason, which is that he can't be intimate with her. Instead, he simply says that he believes they should get to know each other better and that it should happen at the right time. Rayne pretends to understand what Chidi tells her, but deep down, she feels totally rejected and really hurt by this. And honestly, if I'm being fair, I don't blame her for feeling disappointed. Imagine moving to another country for a guy, only to find out that he can't be intimate with you. That's tough. Chidi then kisses Rayne goodnight, and the day ends. The next morning, we see Rayne cleaning her room when Chidi enters. He tells her that he wants to make breakfast for her. So they both head to the kitchen, and Chidi tells her to sit while he does the cooking. He proceeds to make scrambled eggs for them. Once he's done, they sit and eat together while talking about random stuff, which honestly isn't important to include in this recap. Later in the day, Chidi, Rayne, and Victoria all head out to the market so that Rayne can explore the town and understand some of the challenges Chidi experiences every time he goes out. And can you imagine Rayne felt frustrated because Victoria accompanied them? Like Rayne, Victoria is literally just trying to make you feel comfortable. Please, chill out. Rayne even explains that she wanted to be the one to guide Chidi. But seriously, how foolish can you be to think you can guide a blind person in a country you've never been to before? Make it make sense. Chidi's sister Victoria is being incredibly kind by helping Rayne navigate a city she's never been to before. But Rayne, for some reason, doesn't want that. Instead, she insists on exploring the city with Chidi, who is blind, on her own. Like, how ridiculous can you get? Thankfully, Rayne later comes to her senses and realizes how helpful Victoria is being. She's actually glad Victoria is there to guide them. They finally reach the market, and that's where the drama begins. They encounter a man who sells and, well, unalives chickens for people. The moment Rayne realizes that Victoria is about to buy a chicken that's going to be unalived, she freaks out. According to her, chickens are like family. Seriously? I'm so done with this woman. Rayne literally eats chicken but acts shocked that they don't magically appear cooked on her plate. After this unnecessary drama, Rayne calms down, and Victoria decides to leave Chidi and Rayne alone to talk privately. But, as you can imagine, Victoria starts to worry. Rayne's quick temper and the way she flared up really bother her. While Chidi and Rayne are talking, Chidi asks her how she feels about being with someone who is blind and whether she sees it as a burden. Unsurprisingly, Rayne says she actually likes it. She then begins to tell him how she wants more physical affection from him. At this point, Chidi has no choice but to come clean. He finally tells her that he can't be intimate with her before marriage due to his religion. And as expected, Rayne gets angry. She argues that she believes it's actually God's plan for them to be intimate. Yep, you heard that right. From this bizarre reasoning, it's becoming clearer just how unhinged Rayne can be. The next time we see Chidi and Rayne, they're out on a date. Rayne is still a bit upset about Chidi's stance on intimacy, but decides to put it aside for now so they can enjoy their time together. During the date, Chidi reassures her, saying he'll try to be more affectionate so she doesn't feel lonely or bad. The date ends, and they head back home. It's another day, and Chidi and Rayne are heading out on another date. Since Rayne will be returning to the US soon, they want to spend as much time together as possible. This time, they visit a garden. During the date, Rayne apologizes for how she acted at the market when they were buying the chicken. Chidi accepts her apology and then opens up about how he lost his sight. And guess what Rayne says? She tells Chidi she believes something spiritual happened to him that caused him to lose his sight, just so they could be together. Can you even imagine saying something like that? Of course, hearing this, Chidi starts to feel uneasy. Rayne's outlandish comments and the occasional insults she throws around are beginning to seriously worry him. In episode 6, Rayne continues to baffle us with her behavior. Who would have thought she'd take Chidi to see an eye doctor? Honestly, I thought she didn't want his eyesight to improve because of how obsessed she seemed with his blindness. But I guess miracles do happen, and she had a change of heart. Before they enter the doctor's office, Chidi is visibly nervous about what the doctor might say. Rayne tries to comfort him, encouraging him to stay hopeful. Soon after, they're called into the office. The doctor performs some basic checkups and asks a few questions. Unfortunately, the news is devastating. The doctor explains that Chidi's nerves are inactive, and there's nothing that can be done to restore his sight. It's heartbreaking to watch as Chidi is left without any hope for improvement, but sadly, that's the reality of his situation. Later in the episode, we're taken to an evening meal with Chidi, Rayne, Victoria, her husband, and their child. During dinner, Victoria tries to show Rayne how to guide Chidi while eating, but instead of focusing on learning, Rayne's mind is consumed by paranoia. She feels like Victoria has been giving her weird vibes since the market incident and thinks Victoria doesn't trust her with Chidi. Honestly, can you blame Victoria for being cautious? Rayne's meltdown at the market would make anyone skeptical. But let's be real, this is likely just Rayne being delusional as usual. Then, Victoria casually asks Rayne what kind of food she usually cooks at home. Rayne replies that she doesn't really cook, which leaves Victoria and her husband worried. They believe Chidi will need more than pizza and prepackaged food to sustain himself. Things take a turn when Rayne, out of nowhere, asks Victoria why she's angry. Victoria, clearly caught off guard, denies being angry. But Rayne, in her usual fashion, won't let it go. She keeps pressing until Victoria eventually says she's just stressed about her baby and that it has nothing to do with Rayne. During this whole ordeal, poor Chidi, being blind, has no way of knowing if Rayne is overreacting or not. However, he knows his sister well enough to know that she isn't the type to harbor anger. This moment highlights Rayne's deep insecurity and her constant assumption that everyone is against her. Rayne's relentless pressing eventually makes Victoria so uncomfortable that she leaves the table. This marks the beginning of the cracks in Rayne and Victoria's relationship. The next day, Rayne decides to move into a hotel because she feels Victoria gives her dark energy, whatever that means. Not only that, but Rayne also decides she wants Chidi to move in with her at the hotel. However, she knows Chidi might hesitate because of his family. Later, Rayne goes to Chidi's room and asks him to go for a walk, likely to discuss her plan. During the walk, they sit down to talk, and Rayne asks Chidi if he'd feel comfortable moving into a hotel room with her. Unsurprisingly, Chidi isn't thrilled by the idea. Sensing his hesitation, Rayne's tone becomes aggressive. She tells Chidi she doesn't see why he can't come stay with her. Chidi tries to explain that he's worried something could happen between them if they share a room. Rayne immediately cuts him off, promising she won't touch him in any way. Sure, Rayne, we totally believe you. Chidi keeps trying to explain why it's a bad idea, but Rayne rudely interrupts him again. She accuses him of caring more about what his family and others think than about their relationship. Chidi, being the kind and patient man he is, attempts to explain that it's not about other people, but about his beliefs. However, Rayne, in her typical fashion, shuts him down and dismisses his beliefs entirely. She tells him she doesn't care about his faith and feels she's far beyond it. At this point, Chidi is overwhelmed. Rayne's constant interruptions and yelling leave him feeling disoriented. And remember, he's blind. This isn't just a heated argument for him. It's an incredibly stressful experience. The louder Rayne gets, the harder it becomes for Chidi to process what's happening. Now Chidi is left in a dilemma. Should he go to the hotel with Rayne to appease her, or should he stand firm in his beliefs? You can see the conflict on his face, and honestly, I feel so bad for him. Rayne's behavior is exhausting, and Chidi deserves so much better. So yes, this is part 2, where the drama gets way worse because Rayne just can't help herself. Today is the day when Rayne is finally moving out to go stay in a hotel. While she's packing her stuff, Chidi comes to her room to see what's going on. He asks Rayne what's happening, and she tells him she's packing her stuff to go to the hotel. She then asks him if he is coming with her or not, but Chidi tells her that he needs tonight to sleep on it and that he also needs to prepare stuff in order to move to the hotel with her. But Rayne sees through him and gets mad that Chidi is using a flimsy excuse not to go with her. Rayne tells Chidi she feels like he can't make any decisions on his own and feels like she's dating 3 people instead of him. Chidi tries to ask her how moving to a hotel is going to help their relationship. But Rayne flares up and says if he doesn't go to the hotel with her, the relationship is done. During all this mess, Bernard, Victoria's husband, comes to the room to see what is happening. Chidi keeps trying to explain to her that Victoria actually likes her and has been doing all her best to make her feel comfortable. But Rayne doesn't care about it. She just feels Victoria is controlling Chidi and how he feels. Next, Victoria enters the room and tries to defuse the situation. Well, not really. She tells Rayne that she doesn't appreciate the way she speaks to Chidi and how she always yells at him without letting him say a word. But we all know Rayne doesn't care about all this. She keeps insisting that she is perfect for Chidi and has done nothing wrong. She also says that she believes Victoria doesn't like her at all. So it just becomes a yelling match between Victoria and Rayne, leading to Victoria telling Rayne she is delusional, which is obviously true. After this, it almost gets physical between them, but Bernard stops anything like that from happening. Then Rayne starts talking literal nonsense, talking about when Earth first started. It wasn't a program, and tells Chidi, "Welcome to your program." What sense does that even make? This woman is really crazy. She lives in a delusional world where she's always the victim, and someone always does something wrong to her. Next, Rayne takes her stuff and leaves the house, leaving Chidi all emotional and heartbroken. In the car to the hotel, we see Rayne also sad and crying. So it's the next day, and we are shown Rayne in her hotel room, and Delulu Rayne is talking about how Chidi let his family and, according to her, his false faith come in between them. She's also sad and keeps crying. Meanwhile, we are later shown Chidi, and he too feels sad, but says Rayne's lack of respect for his family is unacceptable. Later, Chidi goes to his sister's room, and she and her husband ask him how he's feeling. He says he misses her, even though she has some issues to fix. But Victoria doesn't seem too happy with that response. She believes that Rayne leaving him is the best decision for him. Still, during all this, Victoria explains that since she loves Chidi, she will let him make his decisions for himself. If he wants Rayne back, then that's his choice, but she gets emotional about this. After a few days, we are taken back to the hotel, and we see Rayne, dressed up, and she tells us, or the camera, however you want, that Chidi surprisingly asked to see her so they can talk. It's the D-Day, and Chidi and Rayne go to the beach, sit down, and start talking. So Rayne then asks Chidi again if he wants to come to the hotel to spend more time with her, but Chidi isn't interested in that. He is more interested in getting to know why Rayne doesn't like his sister. But while Chidi is talking, Rayne cuts him off, not letting him speak. She keeps insisting that Chidi is being controlled by his sister. She basically gets aggressive, and poor Chidi can't say anything. He is trying his best to talk to Rayne, but this woman keeps interrupting him every single time he speaks, until Chidi finally gets tired of her BS and tells her he needs to move on. Chidi explains that he can't express his opinions and feels everything always revolves around Rayne, and that is too much for him to take. So he decides to end things with Rayne. So this is where the day ends, with each of them going back to their different destinations. Some days pass, and we see Rayne packing her bags to leave for the US. She told Chidi she was leaving, so Chidi asked them to meet again. At this point, I'm really getting tired of them meeting to talk or have a conversation when Chidi is not even going to be able to say a word because of Rayne. It's annoying. Next, we see Victoria accompanying Chidi to the hotel. She helps him sit while waiting for Rayne to arrive. Rayne then comes down to meet him, and they share a hug. He actually brings her a dress and a few pieces of jewelry so she can take them home as a souvenir. But Rayne doesn't really care about it. She feels like he's putting up a show in order to look good. They talk, and then Rayne asks Chidi why he ended the relationship. So as usual, Chidi tries to explain, but again, Rayne won't let him speak. She just keeps talking and talking in an aggressive tone to the point of calling him a scammer who only wants a visa so he can go to the US, which is just so ridiculous because you could see how much Chidi actually loved her. But Rayne ruined it all with her approach and delusions. Chidi tries to defend himself, saying he's not a scammer and he doesn't need her to travel if he wants to. Again, Rayne doesn't let him speak. She just keeps yelling and stomps out, leaving Chidi there alone. His sister then comes and takes him so they can leave. Later that day, Rayne disappointingly leaves Nigeria with a broken heart back to the US. And this is the end of their story. Like I said before, this is one of the weirdest couples this season, and hopefully I was able to recap in detail what happened. It took a lot of time making this video, but I enjoyed it. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in another one. This was Rewind and Recap. Have an amazing day. Bye!